Floppycatters. I'm here today with Pam Russell of Perfectly Holistic, and Pam was kind enough to do all the technical stuff for me. Pam has been helping my 13-year-old Ragdoll cats, Charlie and Trigg, for the past 6 months to detox them and more. And so you guys have heard me talk about Pam on lives and stuff like that, but I wanted to introduce you properly to Pam, have her explain how she got into what she's doing, and also have her explain what it is she does and what I bought and how we've been working together. So Pam, welcome. Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me. It's been quite a journey, but it's been so much fun.
Yes, Pam is our angel, been our savior. She has seen all sides of my personality.
Also, and I still love you.
Thank God, because we still need your help.
You know, it's a journey. It's not a sprint. It's a journey.
It is. It is.
It's not I mean, it's really a marathon. It's not a sprint. So we have to just take what we learn along the way so that we can do better the next time we have opportunity to do so.
Yes.
So, you know.
And I hope that you and I sharing what we've been through today will help someone else prevent getting to where I was.
Yes.
So, can you explain how Perfectly Holistic came about and why you started doing what you're doing, please?
Absolutely. Well, years ago, I was in the fitness industry, and being in the fitness industry, did a lot of training and injured my foot. And it was a bone under the bottom of my foot. So, it's hard to heal something you're walking on all the time and all that. So after conventional medicine was not working, I just had an epiphany one day when I was on vacation in Vancouver and driving through Chinatown, of all places, and saw a Chinese market, and something in my head just kind of little light bulb went off, and I thought, if Chinese medicine didn't work, it wouldn't still be used for thousands of years. I need to look into that when I get home. And so that's what I did. And so when I got home, I got online and I started looking for a Chinese doctor in the Houston area, because that's where I was at the time, and found a couple of places, called one, didn't hear from them, called another person, got in, went to see her. She was a real Chinese doctor from China that had been in the United States for 10 years. She did acupuncture and herbal medicine and, Chinese medicine, all that good stuff. And I have to tell you, that was a big turning point for me. And it took a lot of courage, because I am needle phobic. I don't get blood drawn, okay, because I can't stand it. I can't watch it. I can't see other people do it. So for me to get the courage to go to acupuncture was like, okay, I have to do this. There was just something in me that said, you just got to do it. And it wasn't as bad as I thought, but I tell you, even today, whenever I have to go in and get, worked on or something, I still get nervous and I still sweat, and it's crazy, but I do it. That lady had me healed 100% in 8 weeks. And I had been suffering literally for over a year. So needless to say, that was like a mind-blowing experience. And it really opened my eyes to realize that there were methods and holistic approaches out there that I didn't know about. But something deep inside of me said, you need to look outside of your box and go try something else, because what you're doing is not working. Because I was this close to having to go get surgery, and I didn't want surgery because I'd had surgery for the same injury on the other foot a few years before. And let me tell you, you don't want to ever have foot surgery. So that was like my motivation. It was surgery or just go try something like acupuncture. So fast forward, that kind of opened up a can of worms. And then I started looking at nutrition. I started looking at herbs. I started looking at naturopathy. I found a clinic in Houston where I used to live that had naturopathy and holistic health practitioners, and they did muscle testing. And so I took my cats to see them for certain things before I even took myself to see them for certain things, because the vets couldn't give me answers. And so when I took them to the naturopath and they did muscle testing, I got answers immediately. And so it was a shift of my paradigm, right? Fast forward a few more years, I took muscle testing classes from those same people and learned how to muscle test for myself. And then I was on a mission. I mastered all the techniques. I started learning more and more about pets and holistic health and taking courses, just seminars, webinars, summits online, whatever I could find, and just learning, learning, learning. So I was a sponge for many, many years. And then in 2014, I was planning a trip, and we had 6 cats at the time, and we were going to do a family vacation and take them with us to Montana, where we were going to spend about 10 days, and we were going to road trip it. But instead of taking 6 cats, we were going to board our 2 oldest cats, and they required up-to-date vaccinations, which I'm not a fan of. And so I dragged my feet until I absolutely had to hit a deadline to get their paperwork turned in. And so begrudgingly, I took them to the clinic to get their up-to-date vaccinations. And within 1 week, one of my cats died. So that was a horrific, heartbreaking experience and learning lesson for me that, number one, trust your intuition. Don't do it if you don't feel like it's right. And number two, it put me on a journey to start putting myself out there and realizing that I've got so much information now. I could be really helping other cat parents learn and don't do what I did. Learn from my mistakes. This is what I've learned. This is how you can do better. And let's get our cats healthy. Let's learn how to do things in a different way and get better outcomes. And so I started my business, Perfectly Holistic, because of Snow Bear. And I worked my tail off for about 7 years, and then I just finally took my business full-time in January of this year. So now I'm doing this full-time. I'm so busy. It's great. I'm blessed to be busy. And it's rewarding and it's fulfilling to see cats start their journeys and see how far they come. And I've got so many great, amazing stories about cats who were just really, really sick and have just made 100% recovery, are vibrantly healthy. And it's so rewarding. So that's kind of where I am today.
That's awesome. I mean, not awesome about Snowball, but I love a success story that started with a tragedy.
Yeah.
And yes, that's fantastic.
Well, we turn those tragedies into something beautiful, because he has since become one of my guides, and he's the one that kind of put me on this journey. And he told me through an animal communicator a few months after he died that his passing was his passing had to happen in order to put me on the path where I was supposed to be. Because if he hadn't, I wouldn't be here. You know what I mean? It was that pivotal moment where I went, you know what? I need to be that voice for pet parents, and I need to share with other people what I've learned, because over the years, I had so many opportunities, because my cats were really good teachers for me. And I've had up to 6 cats at one time. And, this is back when I was doing everything wrong. Everything, you name it, I did it wrong. And so I learned, because they taught me how to do it differently. And they showed me how, small changes can make huge impacts for the positive. And so that's what I wanted. If nothing else, I want people to know that small changes can make huge differences.
Yes. Yeah. I also think that it's important to point out, though, that yes, he was the catalyst, but you were willing to listen. And a lot of times, if you're not willing to listen, then you won't see the opportunity there or what the lesson is. And when you're highly stressed, like I was for a long time, you kind of miss those until you reflect back. So kudos to you for following that as well. So I approached Pam a couple of readers had told me about Pam, and then a friend of mine who I met through Floppycats had done the optimal cat health analysis with Pam and had suggested it lightly to me a couple of times when I was explaining to her about Charlie. So if you guys aren't familiar, my 13-year-old ragdoll cat Charlie last summer, in that whole allergy season, was itching, biting, scratching, and then he also had a head tremor that was kind of like this sometimes. Um, uh, Neurologically, if I see anything in my cats, I really start freaking out. So after I think like 3 times, this friend of mine said, you should try Pam, just see how it goes. And so I did. And this was after I had gone to multiple veterinarians. We had tried chiropractic work, three or four chiropractors. Now we're with one that's working. But it doesn't matter if you do all of that, if the cat's body is still like raging from inflammation. And then I had spent tons of money with our veterinarian trying to figure it out, and she's awesome, and there's no problems there. But the optimal cat health analysis is specifically for that cat. It's not for just, oh, this cat has allergies, so this is the protocol. Pam test for that cat. So will you explain how you go about that, please?
Yeah, so basically I use muscle testing. Muscle testing is a way of tapping into the innate wisdom of the body to ask them questions and see what kind of responses you get. So muscle testing.
Pam, can I interrupt for a second?
Yeah.
Sorry, I want to mention, because this was confusing to me. So when you buy the optimal health analysis on Pam's site, she sends you a questionnaire, ask you what's going on with your cat, and then you also send her a photo.
Yeah.
And is that it? And then sorry.
They fill out a form, you send in the photo with the form. So I have background. We can set up a chat to talk about your concerns prior to testing and all that.
Okay.
So because I want to know what are your concerns? Like, what's going on with your cat? Why are you reaching out? Because that's and there might be multiple reasons, multiple health conditions, multiple health, symptoms of things going on. So what I do is when I go in, I tend to use a pendulum, because muscle testing, if you use your fingers a lot to do your yes, no questions and things like that, your hand's going to get tired in about 5 minutes. And it takes at least a good 30 to 45 minutes to go through everything that I go through when I'm going through my charts and testing a cat to figure out what is the root cause of this particular symptom or condition. And then what do we need to do to give the body the tools? What tools does the body need in order to get it self-healed? I don't heal it. The body heals itself. We just give the tools it needs to do so, whether that's removing things that are causing the problems, whether that means adding things that would help support or benefit the body, bring it back into balance, or continue the things that are good, that are working. So it's a very long, drawn out process that I go through when I'm asking the cat's body via a picture all of these questions to figure out what's going on, what resonates. So to give you guys an idea of what that list looks like, I go through every body system, every organ, every gland, tissues, neurotransmitters, hormones. I look at foods. I look at vaccines, viruses, parasites, other pathogens, things like yeast, fungus, things like that. I look for environmental chemicals, petrochemicals, environmental sensitivities like allergens, trees, grasses, weeds, pollens, things like that. I look at emotions. And there's always an emotional component to illness, and people don't tend to realize that. But my emotional charts are very long and diverse. So figuring out what other kind of stressors, are there people? Are there pets in the home? Are there other animals involved? Are there traumatic events in their past? Are there abandonment issues? Was there abuse? all of these things make up the complete picture of who that animal is right now, what their journey has been like, and how those things have impacted their health. So I identify all of those kind of things. Then I go in and do some energy clearing work. So energy clearing work, I use a red light laser. It's just a cold laser, and I use this on their picture, because energy is not limited by time and space. So your cat could be sitting in the same room with me. I would do the same energy work with and clearing with them here or with their picture. It really doesn't matter, because it still can affect their being. So I use this on, or I can also use myself as a surrogate with the intention that I am clearing for that animal. And we use this on certain neural calming points of the body, stressor points and things like that, to clear those blocks. So what happens is, it's like clearing the outer layer of energetics that are contributing to stress or a result of stress. And it's like peeling back the layer of an onion, so that once you release that layer of stress around the body can start to heal faster. So it speeds up the healing process. And for emotional stuff, I mean, you can see results within hours, if not minutes. Even physical symptoms. I mean, you know that for yourself. It's fascinating. I'll just say that.
It is. I actually bought a checkup from Pam last night. Well, she did the work last night. I bought it a little bit ago, but she did an energy clearing on Charlie, because we have fleas right now, and so we're trying to work our way through that. But I try to buy a checkup every month. Sometimes it needs to happen more often than that, and I can see the change immediately. That I know that Pam has worked on him, and I'm part of a feline hyperesthesia group on Facebook, and I've suggested Pam to multiple people on there, and one gal was smart and reached out to Pam, and she reached out to me today and said, "What is it with this energy work? Like, it worked. Like, what in the world?" So it's weird though, because she said, I was trying to explain it to my mom, and my mom was like, "Woo woo," and I was like, "It is woo woo," but it's worked, and I worked with several people before Pam, trying to go the holistic route, trying to use supplements, and literally it was like throwing stuff at a wall to see if it would stick. And Charlie, I mean, he just suffered through whatever I was throwing at him. Like it wasn't fair to him. And I was going crazy. So what's cool about not only the energy work and that immediate release, but also Pam takes like, okay, if Charlie needs milk thistle, how many teaspoons does he need, or how many milliliters if it's a liquid, and how many times a day does he need it, and then how many weeks does he need it. So that was the like relief for me, that I finally had like a set list of guidance and like what to do and how to do it and what to do next. As Pam referred the energy stuff as peeling an onion, but also as you detox, you start peeling back the layers too.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And I think it's important to remember that you said earlier, what we do for Charlie is specific to Charlie's body. So his body tells me exactly what it needs and what it doesn't need, what resonates as beneficial or not beneficial. So it streamlines the healing process, because we know exactly the tools. I can tell you the protocols, how much, how long, when to recheck it. Something else pops up. What do we need to do to intervene and kind of, head that off, like we were doing yesterday? It's a constant process. There's constant processes that go on, because the body is not stagnant. Energy shifts, energy changes, our environments change. what we put in our bodies change, what we're exposed to changes. It's the same thing for the cat. So when you can identify the root cause of an issue and address the root cause, like you said, instead of just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, your time goes from sickness to healing can be shortened instead of taking the long route, just trying to figure it out as you go without a guide,
Yes.
So that's what I love about the muscle testing, because there's no guesswork.
Yes. And I should mention, I was thinking about this when you were talking earlier. I had no intentions of like featuring Pam or anything. When I initially reached out to her, I was solely a cat owner. And my initial call with her, Pam offers a free 15, 20-minute call. And I was like, okay, let's see if this lady knows what the hell she's talking about. And I said to her, Pam, do you really think you can help me? Because I'm at my wit's end. I can't do this anymore. I can't watch this cat anymore. I really didn't know how to get it to stop other than Charlie dying. And that didn't seem like a good option either. And I wouldn't have put him down or anything, so don't freak out about that. So I thought to myself that day, if this freaking works, I'm going to feature her on Floppycats. And I wanted to make sure that it worked because, it's 6 months later. And yes, we're still undoing stuff, because even when we started, Charlie was on dry food. He got 2 tablespoons a day. And that was because I couldn't get him to eat wet food unless he got the dry food. And then the rest of his diet was wet. Trigg was diagnosed, or he had an Antec renal tech test done that, I don't know, predicted that he would have kidney disease, 95% possibility in the next 2 years. So I had removed dry food from his diet because it dries out the kidneys and all sorts of other things. So Charlie and Trigg were only on wet food at that time, or wet food and dry. So Pam cleared Charlie of dry food, which I was like, yeah, right. I mean, he was an addict.
He was a kibble addict. That's what I call them. Yes. And we have to remember that kibble is metabolized like sugar because of the high percentage of starches that they use in dry food to make it stick together and go through an extruder. So that is, it could be 30 to 60% carbohydrate. And that's what triggers their happy sensors in the brain. We call it the opioid receptor site. And their taste buds get really happy when they have this sugar addiction, the sugar high. And a lot of cats who don't want to eat wet food actually have an energetic block to eating wet food because they're so addicted to the dry. So what we did was we cut that energetic cord of the opioid receptor site and the taste buds with that obsession. There's actually an emotion called obsession that's tied to that sugar addiction. And when you cut those cords energetically, it's like the cat is no longer tethered, so to speak, to that dry food, and then they're open to eating the wet food. And that's what happened with him. It's like all of a sudden he's like, oh, this wet food actually tastes pretty good.
Yes. Yes. Charlie came to me from the breeder eating dry food. He was immediately game for wet food, but then something happened around the age of, I don't know, 6 that I wanted to get them off of dry food completely. So we did. And then I was dating a guy at the time, so that's why I said we. And then and then somewhere, like I want to say 10 or 11, he stopped eating wet food. So I had to introduce dry food again. Now I would just have to reach out to Pam. So, and I don't know why I did air quotes for Pam there, because I would just reach out to you. So what I want to say now is I can't believe it, but my cats are on raw because of Pam. And we talked about it in the beginning, and I was like, this is a pipe dream if I hear one.
I know you were not very confident that that would ever happen. I'm like, no, we can do this.
No, not at all. Because I tried to transition them at 6. It has always been my dream to have them on raw, like, chewing on gnawing on a piece of whatever, like a lion or a cheetah that I love nature shows like that. So that was my dream to see that. And I had tried everything, commercial raw. I got a meat grinder. I made my own raw. Everything did not work when they were 6. And now I know there's lots of transition steps that you can do if you don't have a resource like Pam. And it could take you up to a year or 6 years. I talked to Dr. Jean Hovey. It took one of her cats 6 years to transition to raw. Pam, 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I know. It shortens that time span.
Crazy.
Just that energy work. I know.
I still can't believe it. And my friend who introduced me to Pam, she still says, I cannot believe that you're talking to me about your cats eating raw. And I was like, I know. And energetically, I don't want to concentrate on that because I'm like, if I do that, then I'll stop the process. But yeah, it's just wild to me. So,
and look how far they've come in 6 months. Just their health has totally taken a 180. Once we identified the root causes of the issues, which is what we did in the first initial cat health analysis, I'm like, oh, it's this, and this. This is what we have to work on, and do a lot of detoxing, which takes time, and then give their bodies time to heal.
yes.
But I see cats can be very resilient once their bodies are cleaned out from all the stuff that's been messing their systems up, and then you give them something really healthy and you support their organs or body systems that need supported, that have been weakened for so long. They can be very resilient. You just have to give them time.
Yes. Yeah. So that's a good thing to point out here, because I was talking to that gal that's in the feline hyperesthesia group with me today on Facebook Instant Messenger. Is that what it's called? That's like Facebook direct messages. And we were talking about that. The Pam route is not necessarily, well, to me, we're like, is it hard? Is it easy? It is not easy. It's not necessarily hard, other than you got to have perseverance. Because we were talking about the typical drugs that are administered for a feline hyperesthesia cat are steroids, gabapentin, or Prozac. And to me, I'm like, well, if you really think about it, that's the hard route, because it might provide relief, immediate relief, but down the road, who knows what it's going to cause in the organs and stuff. And then you've got the cost there with the veterinarian and the drugs, but then you've got the veterinary cost after that, because it's just never going to end. No. So I was like, if you have the perseverance to stick through this, then it's way more rewarding and ends up being easier, because you get health, and health is easier.
Absolutely. And I tell that to people all the time. I'm like, you will want to quit before your cats will, because cats can be very stubborn, as we know, because they're cats. And if it's not their idea, they don't want to do it. But you just have to decide. You have to make that decision, and you have to make that commitment, because it's not always going to be convenient, and it's not always going to be easy. And they may fight you a little bit, but they'll forgive you and they'll get over it. And you have to just keep the end goal in mind. Just keep the end goal. My cat is going to be healthy. I just got to get through this time. And you just take it one day at a time. And who cares if you go 2 steps forward and have to take 1 step back? You just get up the next day and you start over again, and you just stay on course, because the minute you quit, you lose. You just have to stay on course, follow the plan, and persevere, like you said, because I promise you, it gets better. But it might be challenging in the very beginning when you're learning and you're trying to do better. It can be very frustrating when the cat doesn't want to cooperate, or God forbid, they just like refuse to take their meds, or not necessarily their meds. I shouldn't say meds, supplements or whatever it is you're doing. Yeah, it can be challenging, but that's where more energy work can help the process. You go back, you do more energy clearing work. Specifically in the case of the person you were talking to today, who was also one of my clients, we cleared milk thistle as a stressor to taste buds. The cat hated taking the milk thistle supplement and a syringe with other yummy stuff in it, but still it was like a big fight. And I do this all the time for clients. I clear it as a stressor. And then the next time you go in, they're just like, oh, thank you for the milk thistle. Mind blown.
Mind blown.
Mind blown.
Yes.
It's that, I mean, it happens that quickly.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden it's no longer a fight.
Right. Yes. And I have to admit that in this process, I gave up a couple times. I reverted back. I gave Charlie a steroid when I couldn't handle it anymore. Only once. But now that they have fleas, I've thought it'd be a lot easier just put that chemical on them and the fleas would be gone and I wouldn't have to like vacuum every day and, you know, spray Wondercide and all that stuff. But then I think, do I want to repeat these last 6 months again? Oh
no. So, you've come too far.
Yes. And Pam has been a very good friend to me. And I've tried not to rely on her for emotional support, but there have been times where, I mean, Pam's heard me cry. I don't know if I've screamed, but I've maybe said like, I screamed today. So, and she's heard me happy and grateful and thankful as well. But it's amazing what it teaches you about yourself and your own, and you start thinking about your own health, what you're putting in your own body, how you want to, you know, take care of yourself medically as well. So it's just some good stuff, Pam.
It's a learning process. You know, yeah. I say this a lot to people. Things don't happen to you in life, they happen for you. And it's all about your perspective. So struggles that we have with our cat, we could have a tantrum and scream and shout and throw things at the wall and give up. Or we could say, okay, what am I supposed to learn from this? Help me learn. And when you change your attitude and you change your perspective, and you have done so great. And you know what? We're all human. We have those moments where we want to throw a little tantrum. And you know what? That's okay. As long as you pick yourself up and you're like, okay, tantrum over. I'm moving on, you know, and you just have to change your perspective and go, what it is that I'm supposed to learn from this? Because our cats are our greatest teachers. And I used to do everything wrong, everything. So trust me when I say my cats taught me a lot, because I had some die because of the decisions that I made and how I raised them. And now that I've learned how to do it better, there are certain things that I don't do anymore. And it's for their highest and best good that I don't do those things. So you just have to learn. You have to implement how to do things better and then commit to doing it that way going forward. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to ever make a mistake, or you're going to second guess, or you're going to doubt what you're doing. You just have to trust the process and trust what you're learning along the way, because like you said, you do learn a lot about yourself.
Yes. Okay. So I was thinking, and I do this a lot. Like if I was watching this webinar, what have I like left out, or what's been kind of confusing? And it's hard when you've already gone through the process to convey that. But what is it that you deliver back to someone? Like what does the health analysis say? And I don't want to talk in general terms anymore. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I think you told me that you have Charlie's original one there. But like, you know, ion biome, like all that kind of stuff. Like what did you tell me to do?
Do you want me to look at it?
Well, you don't necessarily need to list it, but we know Charlie had leaky gut. So
Yeah, so based on what resonated with Charlie or Trigg, for example, or any client, I go in and use muscle testing once again and figure out what tools do we need to use to support or improve this particular condition. And so the analysis ends up being multi pages long because I list out everything that resonated. And when I say resonated, that means like what showed up as a stressor, what showed up with imbalance, what is out of alignment energetically. It paints a picture of the cat. Here's the cat in all its energetic beauty, every body system, organ, gland, tissue that's going on. What is standing out going, hey, hello, something's wrong over here. You need to pay attention to this. And so that's what I list out for you. And then I highlight what I can energetically clear so it's no longer contributing that element of stress or removes that outer layer of stress. And then I go into specific protocols to say, okay, this is the most important thing going on. For example, let's say it was vaccines. We got to do some detoxing because not only was it vaccines, we got to take care of the heavy metals that were in the vaccines, but we need to address the flea tick chemicals that were in the body. So there's a lot to detox. So let's break it down into steps. So it's not all at once, but we give the body one thing to do at a time. And that way it's very gentle and it stretches things out, but that way it's going to be easier on the cat. It's easier on you. So you're not having to do all of this stuff at once. It would just be too much for their little bodies to handle. But if there was a leaky gut situation, for example, okay, first of all, we have to stop what's causing it. And then we got to support and give them specific supplements or whatever to heal that gut and repopulate good gut flora and all that kind of stuff. What can we do to bring down the inflammation at the same time? Are there food sources that we can use that are, like the sardines, the antioxidant support, things like that? Maybe we need to change their diet like we did for Charlie and Trigg and get them on a different food. Sometimes there are food sensitivities that are just contributing ongoing inflammation and problems that lead to IBD and IBS symptoms and lymphoma and all this kind of stuff. So we have to look at the diet. And that's probably one of the hardest things for people to change. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes. Yes. I'm looking at Trigg. Well, I'm kind of watching him see how much he's itching because then I know what our flea situation is. But he's the reason that we had to switch to raw because I had them on high quality canned food, but the thickeners in it were causing a lot of problems for him. So he was our catalyst for switching to raw.
Yeah.
But I guess what I wanted to convey was, so there's the initial cost of the analysis that you do, but then there is an additional cost to buy the supplements and whatnot. And that's specific for each cat. And by whatnot, I mean homeopathy, because there's sometimes you recommend that sort of thing. And I don't think I fully understood that part of it. And so the cost will vary, but you can also say to Pam, I can't afford this right now. Like, what's the best thing to start with? So that's an option too.
Absolutely. Yeah, the thing is, I mean, you're going to have a cost associated with any supplements or homeopathy or meds or foods or, even if you were to go to the vet, they're going to send you home with, here's your food, here's your medication, here's your blah, blah, blah. Right. So, I understand. I'm very conscientious about cost. Unfortunately, money does not grow on trees last time I checked. So, but you know what? What's interesting is that using stuff like homeopathy, little tube costs you about $8 or $9 versus prescription diet food, $40, $50 for a little 8-pound bag or whatever it is. So when you start in the vet visits, when you start to compare what just even some supplements, they're not $150. Yes, they might be 25, 35, 45, $50, but they're going to last you for a little while. So yes, there are ways that we can structure the protocols. And that's why I try to put the steps in order of what's most important first. Focus on this first, so that if you do have to stagger things out for financial reasons, I get it. Then that's where I kind of guide you and help you do that too.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I think like on Charlie's initially, the reason I hesitate, guys, on talking about what Charlie was given is it was specific to Charlie, and I don't want you. Oh, I have a feline hyperesthesia cat. I'll try that. I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world because these aren't bad things that are being tried, um, but he was put on 2 detoxes. I think one for 2 weeks and then another one for 2 weeks. But the first one I think was homeopathic. Did I pronounce that right?
Homeopathy?
Yes.
Let
And
me.
then the second one was an herbal blend from Global Healing or something like that.
Oh yeah. We did some detox for him. We had to start with some lymphatic support because he had a lot of stagnation in his body. So we started with that, and then we added the heavy metal chemical cleanse product. So yeah, you have to start gently,
Yes.
and one of the things about detox processes that's so important for people to understand is you can't just throw a bunch of detox supplements at your cat without making sure that their lymphatic system and all their drainage pathways are open. Because if the liver is sluggish, if it is not able to handle filtering out that amount of waste and toxins, those toxins just keep recirculating in the body, and your cat is miserable, and they're itching and they're just twitchy, like you've seen. They're just not leaving. The lymphatic system is not capable of flushing them out. So that's why we started him specifically on some lymphatic support to get things moving and open.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And then you had me do some immune support too.
Mm-hmm.
We're still kind of on the immune support situation. But with and that was the other thing as part of the process. I mean, Chiggy was, oh my gosh, he was licking all the time, licking. And that's a cool thing too, that I learned from Pam. The difference between licking, scratching, like those body languages or whatever are indicative of what's going on inside. And so one of the things, I don't know why I held off on this, but at some point during the 6 months, Pam suggested milk thistle, and it scared me. I didn't want to try it. I didn't want to get going on it. And they both were just like, I'm like, stop licking. Oh my God. And
I remember. I'm like, well, they need liver support. Are you using some milk thistle? You're like, no. I'm like,
yep. And that's what was needed. And then we were home free.
then it's like,
Yes.
Their liver all of a sudden became happy.
Yes, and then I'm apologizing to them for being not a nice person because I made them suffer through that.
Yeah.
Pam gave me the right tools. I just didn't execute. So, yes.
There's a method to the madness, in other words.
Yes. So, okay. So we did the detox and then the immune support. But the immune support, it's not just one supplement. It could be a variety of supplements depending on the kitty. And in fact, in last night's checkup with Pam, so Pam also offers, like, after you've done the health analysis, if you complete everything in that and you want her to check, where your cat is now, she can do that. And so Pam did that last night for Charlie. And she found that he needed dandelion.
And why dandelion? Let's talk about dandelion. Dandelion is great for lymphatic support. It is a great support system for detoxing and filtering things out of the body and getting them moving. So you can use dandelion. I mean, there's so many benefits to dandelion. It's great for liver, lymphatic. It's nutritious. I mean, there's just a bunch of reasons. But specifically, he's dealing with lymphatic stagnation and the interstitium. And that's the fluid that, drains the toxins out of the body. And he was just like itching, and or not necessarily itching, but flicking
Yeah.
and those little nerves.
Yeah.
It's like these little nerves are being irritated inside. He has no control over that. So tell him what we did.
Well, Pam suggested to get dandelion tea, and that's a cool thing too. Some products Pam has available on her website, and you can conveniently get them there. Some products she does not, but she'll guide you on where to find them. So I found dandelion tea online, and Pam was like, "I don't think you want that one. It has cinnamon in it." And I was like, "Oh, whoops, forgot to read that part." So this morning I went to Natural Grocers and got some dandelion tea, and much to my surprise, Charlie didn't care at all. Like I've syringed him or Pam said to give him a tablespoon twice a day, and so I filled a tablespoon with water because my syringes are 3 mils, and I extracted that water, and it took me 3 times. So I'll have to give him 6 syringes if I do it syringe wise. But I always like 2 things. I usually will try the supplement myself first, with the exception of sardines, or like anything omega-3 fishy can't handle. But I'll try it myself. And then I also just want to try a little bit to see how the cat reacts, because based on their reaction, I might have to mix it with something yummy or whatever. And dandelion actually tastes a lot like dirt or grass. Like it has no really flavor. And my cats eat grass anyway, so it wasn't a problem. And Charlie was like, "Oh, all right, thanks."
Yeah, and if your cats would take it, it's like water. I mean, it's not, you could just easily mix it into their raw food, wet food, whatever. They probably won't even know it's there. It's just going to feel like it's got a little extra liquid to it.
Yes, and so if you have a multi-cat household, so I made the tea like how you would make any tea, boil water, put the tea bag in, and then I let it sit on the counter to cool down. And when I was counting that, out of the tablespoon, I was like, whew, it's gonna add 6 more syringes a day. I don't know if I want to do that. So I reached out to Pam and I said, "Does this test well for Trigg too? Because if it does, then I can just put it in their food." Charlie and Trigg like to trade food bowls and go back and forth. So whatever, if it's specific for Charlie and Trigg can't have it, then I have to syringe it. And so that's why I asked Pam, "Can Trigg have it too?" And she said yes. So then I went and got a syringe of tea and put it in Trigg's mouth to see how he reacted. And he was fine with it as well. So now I know for sure that I can add it to their food and not,
yeah, that's
compromise
awesome.
that.
Yeah. Dandelion has so many health benefits to it. I mean, even if people wanted to just use it on occasion for their cats, it's certainly not going to hurt.
Right. And that's what I meant by the ion biome stuff.
Can
you explain that while I redo my hair? Is so classy.
So one of my favorite supplements is Ion Biome it's the Gut Support for Pets by Ion Biome. And it was developed by Dr. Zach Bush, and it's a great fulvic acid product, which is a soil-based product that helps repair the tight junctions in the intestinal wall. And the tight junctions are what keep the integrity of the immune system. So, if you have exposure to a lot of toxic chemicals or foods, bacteria, viruses, whatever, just microbes in general, they can start to weaken those tight junctions. And what happens is stuff that you don't want getting into the bloodstream all of a sudden can pass through that one cell layer of the intestinal wall, and now it's into the bloodstream. And so now there's a potential for the body to have an immune reaction, because this is like a foreign invader. It doesn't belong there. And so what we want to do is we want to heal that gut. So they call it leaky gut. Ion Biome is a great product, or the Ion Gut Support for Pets is a product that does heal those tight junctions, and it tastes like water. So easy just to add it to the food. It helps detox chemicals and things like that, glyphosate and stuff too.
Yes.
Hmm.
The product used to be called Ion Biome, and I think it now is called Intelligence of Nature or something. And that,
That's the brand.
okay,
Yeah. So it's ion gut support for pets.
for pets.
Yeah.
So Charlie and Trigg were immediately put on that, and actually, I was referred to a homeopath and a cat nutritionist that I worked with before Pam, and both of them recommended it as well because of the leaky gut. Anytime you have a cat that has, I've learned to say food sensitivities or environmental sensitivities rather than allergies,
Yes.
but in general, we tend to say allergies when we mean food sensitivities.
Right.
So when you have a cat with that, like 100% of the time, they usually have leaky gut. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So Ion Biome is good for that. And so even though Charlie and Trigg aren't testing that they need it anymore, I spoke with a friend of mine who started me on the Pam journey, and she said, I just put it in my cat's food anyway. I mean, what harm can it do? And I was like, okay, that's what I'll do too. So I do add Biome to our food now. And so we'll add dandelion too.
Right.
Yes.
It's okay to pulse those kind of things. So even after they're not necessary anymore, it would still be beneficial. So every now and then do it for like a week, take a week off, or 2 weeks, take 2 weeks off, so that it gives the body a break. And
Yes.
then they become more effective the next time you use them. So we don't want to build up a tolerance to certain things. So that's why it's good to pulse them when they're no longer required.
Okay.
Yeah, they can still be beneficial, but not required.
Yes. And that kind of verbiage is what Pam uses on your optimal health analysis. She will say beneficial and necessary or beneficial but not necessary. So that gives you an idea of how to proceed too.
Mm-hmm. Helps just provide some more clarity.
Yes.
Like how important is this particular supplement or food or whatever it is?
Right.
Do we continue using it? Is it necessary? And I'm very clear about stuff that I'm not in my wheelhouse. I'm not a vet. Drugs are not my wheelhouse. So if people says, well, how much of this medication should I use? I'm usually the one going, look, it's not my wheelhouse. You need to ask your vet. But I can test the drug and I can see, does it resonate as beneficial with your cat's body? Is it working? Because if it's a no, you're throwing your money away. It's not benefiting them. So there's no need to continue it.
Right.
Or perhaps it's harmful, because there are medications like steroids. They can be beneficial to a degree, but long-term use, they can be harmful. So you have to weigh the benefits with the risk.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that this covers it. I want to do a series of videos with Pam, but I also know sometimes you only can commit a certain amount of time to listen to these things. So that's why I want to keep them in chunks, and so that people can, decide what they want to listen to. But Pam, do you have anything else that you'd like to add to this initial one?
No, I guess the only thing I would just suggest is that people go into using alternative or natural healing options with an open mind. Because if you come in and you're closed-minded, it's not going to work for you because you're not going to believe it. You're not going to do it. So, when you're at that point of desperation, when you'll do anything, that's usually the people that come to me because I'm their last hope. I just tell them, okay, have an open mind and be patient, stick to the plan, because if you quit, it's not going to work. You're not going to get to the finish line. You're not going to see the results. So persist, be patient, and give the body time to heal.
Yes. Yes. And that is a good point, because I have talked to my vet a lot about Pam, because Trigg goes in once a month for acupuncture. And, last year we were in allergy hell. So she was asking me about this year, and I'm like, we're great. So life is good. And she's like, really? And I said, yes. And I explained to her about Pam and what we've done. And she's like, well, Jenny, you don't understand. Like when my clients come in and they have a cat that has allergies, they want like a quick fix. They want me to fix it like now. And you can't. And she's like, so I would love to send people to Pam, but not everyone's going to be willing to do what you were willing to do. And the reason I was willing to do it, because I was desperate.
I know.
Desperate.
I know.
So
I totally get it. I totally get it. You know, we have to change our perspective as a society from instant gratification to understanding the process.
Yes.
There's always going to be a segment of the population that wants the quick fix, give me a pill. But there's a consequence to that pill long term. It's only a band-aid on a problem, and you're going to have another, you know, symptom pop up. It's like the whack-a-mole game. Okay. So we can either find the root cause and address the root cause, or you can play the whack-a-mole game for the next 10 years with your cat. It's up to you. And it's so whatever you want to do is fine, but just understand that you're not going to get your cat healthy until you address the root cause. And I'm a really good detective. I can find root causes that nobody else can find because I know how to ask the right questions.
Yes. Yes. You're saving grace and we love you. Seriously, I count my lucky stars that you exist. So thank you.
Thank you. Well, it's been a pleasure and an honor I always consider it an honor to serve the cat community because that's why I'm here.
Yes. And I'm excited to finally have a video that I can send to people because I've been talking about you for, I don't know. I tried to hold off for a little bit, but now I reference you all the time. And so people are like, who's Pam?
I appreciate it.
And so it'll be nice to send them this. So thank you.
Absolutely. Yay. Well, I'm excited about our chats. We're going to have a lot.
Yes. Thank you, Pam.
Absolutely. You're so welcome.
Bye, guys.
Until next time. Bye, guys.